for an all-important conversation and discussion that we believe that the entire nation and its people should be aware of. Today is October 4th, 2021, and about 6 months ago we were here to talk about financial literacy awareness and how every Ghanaian deserves to be a part of this and how every Ghanaian deserves to be educated. 6 months down the line, today we're meeting here with the press to send the message abroad for everyone to know the essence of estates and gift planning. Estates and gift planning. So in regards of that, we have special dignitaries amongst us in our midst. Those who want to acknowledge that this event is put together by the Financial Awareness Foundation, Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa, University of Ghana Business School, and the FA Association. My name is Glory Boateng. I will be your MC for this morning.
It is indeed a great privilege to have wonderful and special people like you to be part of our maiden estate and gift planning month. This morning we are here to officially launch the month and also to raise some pointers and some chew-ons that we all have to take home and think about. We have distinguished speakers here who will raise the tone and raise some of the things that we need to brood on as we plan our lives, plan our finances, and we plan our businesses from generation to generations. So on behalf of the executives of the FA Association, the Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa, and the University of Ghana Business School, we say you are welcome. Feel at home, feel free, interact, and then be part of this program. So you are warmly welcome, and thank you.
Let me commend Ben for the good work he's doing with the International Improvement Financial Awareness and Literacy Association here at the Business School. And those of us who believe in inclusive financial development think that personal finance is extremely important, and we need to focus more on educating people, improving the awareness on personal financial management so that we can build a very robust financial system for our country. And this topic on estate and gift planning is very important. It's a very important aspect of personal finance, and I'll say that it's a neglected area. It's an area that we often shy to talk about. People don't talk about things that will remind them of the fact that they will die one day, but we will all die one day if Christ tarries. Yesterday I was listening to a motivational speaker, and he said that irrespective of your wealth, the money you have, whatever, the size of our graves will be the same. So we must learn to love one another. But estate and gift planning is very important. It's a difficult sell in our markets because people are not aware. So I believe that what the speeches and lectures by our guest speakers will be able to improve on our awareness and put the things they talk about in practice. Somebody was once advised to think about developing a will or writing a will, and he said, no, he will not do it, because if he does and the wife sees it, she will kill him before his time. So he will do. When it comes to other financial products like life insurance, we don't talk about life insurance, especially the traditional life insurance product, because you benefit when you exit. The benefit is when you are gone. But insurance companies, life insurance companies, later on developed other innovative products. So they had life insurance product that had investment component. So whilst alive, you can benefit from the investment component So that kind of product started gaining some traction and patronage. So maybe we need to, Prof. Atiba, we should think about how to make writing a will very attractive so that people will feel that it's an important part of my wealth management. No, your wealth definitely will outlive you. So what happens to the building? The building will exist, will outlive you. So what happens to the building? So proper estate and gift planning suggests that whilst you're accumulating your wealth, you think about how you want your wealth distributed in a manner that you want, or in a manner that you choose.
It is said that there are two certainties in life: death and taxes. Today, my presentation will focus on those two: death and taxes. Now, because death is certain, people decide to plan how they distribute their assets to persons when they are no longer alive. Now, if we pick estate planning, the common forms of estate planning includes preparation of wills. Okay, some people establish trusts. There are some people who give powers of attorneys to others to manage their affairs when they become incapacitated. People decide to even transfer assets in survivors. That is, whilst they are alive, they decide to give gifts to others. Okay. Now, if you talk about estate planning, as I said, it may even involve the situation. Okay, it may even involve a situation where one person prepares a power of attorney and says that when I'm incapacitated, what should you do? You take care of either my health or my financial plans. You see them a lot in developed countries, but it is at its infant stage in Ghana. Now, my presentation this morning will be very brief, and I'm touching on just the tax issues you should consider whenever you engage in estate and gift planning. Now, if you pick number one, as I said, the commonest form in which people decide to do estate and gift planning is the use of trusts. Now, if you want to establish a trust, there are processes for doing it. When you establish a trust, you appoint a trustee who is the person charged with the legal authority to manage the trust funds on behalf of named beneficiaries. Now, in Ghana, if you establish a trust, the law says, the Income Tax Act says that the trust is taxed separately from the beneficiaries. It's like the company law concept. We say that the trust is distinct. So if the trust is to invest funds and generate profit or returns, those returns will be taxed in the hands of the trust at the rate of 25%. So when you are thinking of establishing a trust and investing funds so that it will get returns, remember, there's a tax that will fall on the returns the trust is to generate. However, if a person is incapacitated and a trust is set up, okay, to manage the person's affairs, the law says that you treat the issues coming out of that as if the person were an individual. So bear that in mind. Even though the trust is the commonest form of actually implementing estate and gift plans, you must remember that setting up a trust would have tax consequences for the trust. Now, I spoke about the fact that there's a person sets up a trust, there are trustees who manage the affairs of the trust, and there are beneficiaries. So the question is, if I'm a beneficiary and I receive a distribution from the trust, would I have any tax consequences or not? The answer is, it depends. It depends on the tax resident status of the trust. Some people decide to set up trust in, as we were, tax havens or low tax jurisdictions and say that over there, there's no tax to be paid. The 25% is eliminated. That is good. But when the beneficiary receives the distribution from that trust, that beneficiary will pay tax on that distribution that has been received. So even though you will not pay tax on what? On the income the trust gains or the returns the trust gains, if the beneficiary is to take that distribution, that beneficiary will be liable to tax in Ghana. However, if the trust is established in Ghana, or the trustee is resident for tax purposes in Ghana, or the persons who take key management decisions concerning the trust are resident in Ghana, then we say that the trust is resident for tax purposes in Ghana. And whenever the trust is to make a distribution to a beneficiary in Ghana, that beneficiary takes it and does not pay tax on that distribution. So you have a choice as to whether you are doing the taxation at the trust level or you are doing the taxation at what? At the beneficiary level. But either way, there'll be some form of tax that you have to pay whenever you use a trust as a vehicle to do estate and gift planning. So the notion that has been bandied about, and I've heard it quite a number of times, that, oh, when you use trust, you don't pay tax. It is not entirely accurate. It depends on the facts and circumstances. So in this, I'll say, whenever you decide to use a trust as a means of estate and gift planning, seek advice from the financial experts, seek advice from the accountants, seek advice from the lawyers, and seek advice from what? The tax consultants before you choose this vehicle. Okay? Now, you may also want to use a will as a means to do tax or to do estate and gift planning. Now, I believe my colleagues will speak more about wills. I'm concentrating just about on the tax aspect. But there's one thing you must remember under Ghanaian tax law, income tax law. Whenever a person dies, all the assets the person owns are deemed to have been realized. Okay? So death, as I always say, is an event of realization under tax law. What does it mean? It is as if you sold all your assets, or it's as if all your assets have been transferred from you to another person. So obviously, if there's a sale or there's a transfer, then the law is looking at whether there was any gain you made when you did that sale or that transfer, and will be seeking to do what? To tax that particular gain. So probably at the time of your death, your assets were worth 200,000 Ghana cedis. When you acquired the assets, they were about 50,000 Ghana cedis. It clearly tells you that there's been an appreciation in the value of the assets by about 150,000 Ghana cedis. That 150,000 Ghana cedis may, and I choose my words carefully, may be subjected to tax depending on certain facts and circumstances. But let me give you some good news, because I know I've been talking about taxes and people don't like to hear about taxes. Let me give you some good news. Now, the law says that where upon death, or as part of a divorce settlement, or as part of a genuine separation agreement, a spouse transfers an asset to what? To another spouse, the law says that you are not saddled with any tax burden. Okay? So upon death, if you transfer either by will, okay, or you transfer as part of a separation agreement, the law says you are not saddled with any tax liability. That's some good news when it comes to people transferring to spouses. So remember, it's upon death or upon a separation agreement or upon divorce, then that may not give you tax liabilities. However, where upon death you transfer to any person who is not your spouse. So over here, it could include your child, okay? It could include, say, a family friend. It could include somebody who has been of help to you during your lifetime. The law says that you are deemed to have what? Sold that asset at market value. Remember what I said earlier on. If it's at market value, then we are asking ourselves, what was the cost of the asset you had? What is the current market value? Has there been an appreciation in the value? If there's been an appreciation in the value, we know you are dead, but your estate, in fact, will have to pay the tax. Now, let me tell you something interesting. Under the Revenue Administration Act, the law says if within 14 days, when you are appointed as an executor, within 14 days, you must write to the Commissioner General of Ghana Revenue Authority and do what? And inform the person that you've been appointed, the law says, as a receiver. It includes an executor, it includes an administrator of a deceased person's estate. And the Commissioner General will inform you whether the deceased person had any tax liability. If yes, you set aside trust assets or the assets of the deceased person to pay off the liability. If you don't do that, you, the receiver, you are personally liable to pay the tax. So that is what the law says. In fact, that it puts that burden on the person who is executing the terms of the will. In fact, even if you do a will, and I know maybe Prof will speak to you a little bit more, or my colleague will speak to you a little bit more. The understanding is that you state in the will that your executor should pay your just debts. Your tax debts are part of your what? Your just debts. So dead men pay taxes. Their estates will pay the taxes that has to come under that. Okay? So as I said, at the time of your death, if the market value of your assets are higher than the cost at which you acquired the assets, then the estate may have to pay tax on the gain that has accrued when it comes to that. So that is the short discussion on wills. Now, let's move on from wills to gifts. I know we all like to receive gifts. During festivities, we receive gifts one form or the other. Even from our employment and from our work, we receive gifts in one form or the other. Gifts are generally taxable in Ghana. If you receive a gift from your employment, so you do your work well, somebody says, oh, take this for your excellent customer service. That is a gift you receive from your employment. The law says you have to pay tax on the value of that gift as if it were employment income. I'm hitting some nerves. You are doing business. Somebody gives you a gift. The law says that it's a gift from business. You must add it to your business income and pay tax. Now, if you receive any other gift, the law says it's a gift from investment. Okay? So you must add it to your investment income and pay tax. So when you do your birthdays and people come and shower you with gifts, remember, the tax man is waiting for you. When you do your weddings and your parties and people make donations and it is heard, you will receive a love letter from the Ghana Revenue Authority that you have to pay tax on your gifts. So when you are transferring your assets as part of your estate and gift plan and you decide to go by way of gift, remember that what? There may be tax consequences for the person receiving the gift. Okay? So the law says that if you transfer an asset as a gift other than under a will, because I spoke about the issues under the will, then you are deemed to have realized the asset and you receive either the greater of the market value or the net cost of the asset. Now, the gift may have implications for the giver, and the gift may have tax implications for the receiver. So both the giver of the gift and the receiver of the gift may be saddled with tax liability. So all that I've said this morning, and again, I'm just summarizing what the tax law says on these matters, on these three key areas as we know it. 1, on trust. 2, on wills. 3, on gifts inter vivos. It tells you that you cannot embark on an estate or gift planning just or in jest. You must seek professional advice, be it the lawyers, the accountants, the financial planners, and the tax consultants, because you do not want to establish or put in place a plan that gives you what? A huge tax exposure. So it is important that you do what? That you seek professional advice on some of these matters. Okay? So this is what I've said. In opting for a particular vehicle, remember, legal advice is important, financial advice is important, and tax advice is also important in noting the desired option to take. Now, as we create awareness today, and we go on in the month to create awareness, I look forward to a day when Ghana will have many entities that are set up with lawyers, with financial planners, with accountants, and with tax consultants who provide comprehensive advice to people who want to do estate and gift planning. As we have it now, you have the lawyers being there, you consult them to do a particular thing. It's in silos. You may go to the accountant for an advice. You may go to the financial planner for advice. You may go to the tax consultant for advice. But we look for that day when harmony and synergy is achieved under one roof. You walk into one-stop shop and you are able to get the sound advice such that you can put in place a well-deserved, a well-managed, and a well-thought-through estate and gift plan. Thank you very much for giving me audience. I am done.
Thank you very, very, very much, Mr. William Damitia. That was a good one. He says that we look for a day where harmony and synergy can be achieved. So we're moving on and we're taking our next presentation from the one and only Mrs. Anita Delight Dankwa, who is a solicitor and a barrister. When she's done with her presentation, I'm going to talk about where she works and probably how you can, talk to her anytime you need. Thank you so much, lady.
You're welcome. Thank you. Thank you, Gloria. Good morning, and all protocol observed. Gloria, the pressure beat so I'm maintenance. Let me take this opportunity to acknowledge my boss, Professor Imanati Guba, my all-time boss. If I'm here today, it's because of Prof. And Prof, thank you so much. So my work is quite simple, and fortunately for you, I hope it will be that interesting as my colleagues. So we are looking at why estate and gifting is important in protecting the vulnerable. With the vulnerable, I'll be looking at women and children. And I do hope that when we are having this discussion, you will agree with me that women and children are more vulnerable. Yeah. If you don't agree, as time goes, I hope I'm able to convince you that women and children are vulnerable. Amen?
Amen.
Okay, so moving on, let me just first and foremost, let's have a little discussion about what estate is, what gifting is, what gift planning is, and then I'll zoom into my main discussion. So when we talk about estate, it's practically about all the properties and debt a person owes at a particular time, usually upon the person's death. So we can put them in three phases. We have the landed property. So landed property, you are looking at the lands, farms, houses. We have the movable properties. Most often I know the cars and the chattels, what we call the chattels. So the cars, the jewelry, and the personal belongings of the person. Then we look at other properties. It could be investment, shares, accounts, bank accounts, monies in the banks and all that. So we can look at that as other properties. So when we talk of estates, we are looking at what the person owes and the debt of the person at the time usually of the person's death. Now let's come to gifting. Gifting usually is giving someone a gift or giving someone something directly or indirectly when consideration is not given, or when full consideration is not given. So someone willingly gives something to you, and all things being equal, either you don't pay for it or you don't give full consideration for it. So who can you gift? Most often than not, we see parents gifting to children, spouse to spouse, individuals to family members, friends, loved ones. Nowadays, we see more of individuals giving to their alma mater. So you went to a particular school. So upon your death, or if you are alive, you can say, I'm building this library for the school. Then we have people giving to their churches. Now the churches are becoming very, very rich. And then we have, in some instance, in the Ghanaian setting, we think it's weird, but there are some people who really give their gifts to the animals, either dogs, cats. We've had such instances. And of course, we have the state. And as my colleague said, the state always needs money, right? So if you give it to the state will take it as well. So with gifts, let's look at two general kinds of gifts. You can give a gift while you are alive or when you die. So we have the intervivals gift and we have the testamentary gift. Depending on what gift it is, okay, Gloria says I should take off my mask. So a few minutes and then, yes. So depending on the kind of gift it is, you'll be taxed. My colleague has gone through that. I'm not going to go through that. So most of the things that my colleague has already spoken about, I'll just be brushing through and then I'll go to my main topic. Okay. So we have this, estate and gift planning. Estate and gift planning. We have some few people here. Let me just ask this question. Please, how many people are married? Just raise your hand if you're married. If you are married, just raise your hand. Okay. How many people have wills? You made a will. Please raise your hand. Okay. Actually, I had 5 people raising their hands that they were married, but not even one has a will. It's a private. I think what my colleague said about spouse killing spouse properties. Yes. So we generally, okay, all things being equal, you can gift someone, and when you gift someone, you can give someone under the will while you are alive. So while you are alive, I'm not going to stress myself on that because you determine what you want to do. But I want to now concentrate on when you die. Death is inevitable. You will die. Unfortunately for us, or should I say unfortunately for you, you don't know when you will die. If you did, then all things being equal, you plan, right? You plan that, okay, a day before my death, I will give this to this one, I'll give this to this one, I'm done, right? Unfortunately, you don't know when you die. You don't even know how you are going to die. So the thinking is that, why don't you plan before that event, which will indeed occur? And you can do it 2 ways. You can determine who you give your gift to, and that is by a will. So what does it mean? If you draft a will, in it, you can determine how you share your property. You can give it to your children, your spouse, your loved ones, your friends, your alma mater, anyone. It's your property. So you can give it to anyone. You can even, you're not supposed to do that, but you can take your spouse out. You can take your children out. It's totally at your discretion. You determine what you do. Now let me tell you what happens when you don't make a will. When you don't make a will, then states will now determine what we will do with your property. So when you die, you have no control as to who gets what. And that's when the interstate succession law comes in, which is popularly called the PNDC Law 111. I think that's one of the most popular laws. When you go at PNDC Law 111. When you hear PNDC Law 111, you shouldn't be so happy. It just means that you didn't make a will, or the person didn't make a will. In a nutshell, the person didn't plan. So if you didn't plan, what was there to be happy about? While you are alive, you've given a gift, right? Outright, you can give it outright, right? Take. You can give it in trust. You can form a trust and give it to the person. It can be by private or public foundations. You can always gift it. Now, under the will, all things being equal, you have to be 18 years and above before you can draft a will. If you are not 18 years, you can't draft a will. And most importantly, it should be your property. Please don't forget this. It should be your property. If what you are willing doesn't belong to you, please, you cannot will it. We have people who are built on family land. You go to your family land, they give it to you. Hey, Kwame, why are there? Beje Asasi, you are so happy. You go and build on it. And one lecturer will tell you, he who owns the land owns everything on the land. You go and build, you are dead. You've willed it. The family is coming for their land. The children are telling the family, it's for my father. My father built it. Yes, your father built it. So take off the building from the land. The land is ours. The building is for your father. So take off the building from the land. How are you going to do that? So when you are acquiring a property and you want to will it, be sure that indeed it is your property. If it is not yours, you leave, the people who indeed owns the property will come for it. So the wills is governed by the Wills Act 1971. That's Act 360. Some people tell you 1971. I think some people here weren't born. But still, it's effective. It's doing its work. All things being equal. So what are some of the general characteristics you have to look for? The basic information. As I said, it has to be owned by the person. And the person who wills it. So if you are willing the gift to someone, you are called the testator or the testatrix. That's if you're a female. It can only be distributed upon your death. So some people will say, if I will it, at the end of the day, the property will be taken from me. No, until you die, no one can take that property. The property cannot be distributed. That yes, some of my children or my spouse will get to know and they'll kill me. So don't let them know. That's if you are that scared. If the woman or the man you are lying in bed with will kill you over your properties, well, then you can have your will made without them knowing about it. So you failing to plan because someone will kill you is not a good excuse. So what can you do? all you have to do, you go and see your lawyer. He will just ask you for certain information, which will come to. He drafts the will. The beneficiaries in there can be your wife. So the executor, the person who will ensure that the properties are shared according to what you have said they should, will do that. Your witnesses, you get 2 witnesses, you are done. When you are done, there will be 3. All things being equal, the lawyer will keep 1, the courts will keep 1 when it's filed, and you will keep 1. So your own, you hide it. I don't know where you're going to hide it that your wife won't find out anyways. But some people go to their, they go to banks and they have this whole deposit there, they put it there. So if you think that your spouse for one reason or the other will kill you because you've made a will, your spouse, if you want your spouse not to know, your spouse will not know. So please plan and make that will. So what happens? You don't make a will. You are gone. Interstate Succession Law 1985 will kick in. PNDC Law 111 will kick in. You know, the PNDC Law 111 came in to curb a particular problem. If you are a little bit old or you read a little bit wide, you realize that in time past, a man will die, then the family will come, throw the woman and children out of the house because the property belongs to our son. These women sometimes go through trials. They have to do the widowhood right to make sure that they didn't kill their husbands. And if for any reason whatsoever, the people in charge think that she killed the husband, that's a whole trial altogether. So our customary laws were not that friendly to our women. So the idea then was like, oh, then PNDC Law 111, let's do it. And we did. I'll come to how it's effective now, if it's that effective. So characteristics, generally, again, it has to be your property. So they will share your property. And this property, they are looking at 4 groups of people. 4. They'll look at your spouse, the surviving spouse. They will look at your children. They will look at your parents. And then they will look at the customary law as in a customary successor. So, looking at these 4 people, maybe there's someone in there that you have loved to give something to, a loved one. But you can't, because you are dead and you didn't plan. And so the state is now sharing your property for you. When we talk of children, we are looking at biological, we are looking at children that the couple deemed to be children, and it can even be out of wedlock. So let's say, for example, apologies to the men. I think I'll be using the men a lot because I'm here to protect the vulnerable, right? But I'll come to the women later. But all things being equal, the man is married. Maybe let's say under any of the 3 kinds of marriage, that is customary marriage, ordinance, or Islamic marriage, any of them. But I want to zoom in on the ordinance, because the customary marriage, it's potentially polygamous, meaning that the man can marry up to even 1,000 wives if he wants to. Islamic, all things being equal, you are looking at 4. So the ordinance is 1, right? And the man can't marry again, apart from you. And so the woman is happy, right? It's only me. He can go and do anything he wants. I'm the wife. You may be the wife, but he can go and give birth outside of your marriage. And when they are sharing that property, all those children outside of marriage are considered children. And they'll get their share. So we are going to share. We are going to share the properties, right? When it comes to the properties, We call something the chattels. I've already said that. So the cars, the jewelry, the personal belongings of the person, and the matrimonial home, if there's any, goes to the wife and children. Absolutely. They take it. The rest of the property will be brought together and divided into 16 equal parts. 16. We are looking at 4 groups of people. The spouse. So the spouse will take 3 of the 16. The children will take 9 of the 16. The parents of the deceased, the one who is dead, the parents will take 2. And the customary successor will take 2. 16. There are situations where, let's say, there are no children. So the spouse will take 8 of 16. Parents 4 of 16. Customary successor 4 of 16. No spouse. The children will take 12 of 16. Parents 2 of 16. Customary successor 2 of 16. Parents only. So no spouse, no children. The parents will take 12. And then the customary successor will take 4. Let's say there's no parent. Everything goes to the customary successor. Everything. There's no customary successor. There's no one. You don't have a surviving spouse. You don't have a child. You don't have your parents are dead. Customary successor is not there. Customary law, in respect to how your property should be shared, there's none. The state takes it. I heard someone say, yeah, the state will take all your property. So some people will tell you, I have one client, and he's quite rich, and I've been trying to push him to draft a will. He thinks there's more money he will pay me. He thinks I'll chop all his money. So all he said is that he doesn't want to make a will now. He's not going to die now. He's too strong. Anything you tell this man, he will not listen. And one thing he said that was quite interesting was that even if I don't make a will, the state will share the properties. And how the state will share the properties, I'm okay with it. Because this is how the state says PNDC law will share it. And how they are going to share it, I'm okay with it. And so, all things being equal, my children and my spouse, they are covered, right? Wrong. We are told, research has told us that when you go back to our local communities, the rural areas, who cares about PNDC Law 111? They don't care about PNDC Law 111. All they care about is customarily how are properties to be shared. So you are sitting in Accra and you are saying PNDC Law 111. When you die, your family head in the village will come and tell us how customarily we are supposed to share the properties. And they will share the properties according to custom. So patrilineal, matrilineal, however you go. So you've not planned, you are not taking care of your children in any way, shape or form after your death, and you are hoping someone else should do it for you. How is that even possible? You won't plan, you won't take control, you won't take care of the ones you love. Who should come and take care of them for you? So in a nutshell, you're leaving everything to chance. You are praying and hoping that PNDC Law 111 will kick in and work for you. And I pray that it works. But if it doesn't, then what? So now let me go back to the discussion of women and children being vulnerable. When you now say women and children are vulnerable, most of our men will tell you, nah. We have women lawyers and women accountants and CEOs. You see, now women are kicking. Women are making it. Percentage-wise. Majority are women in this country. How many are the CEOs and the lecturers and the accountants? What happens to the rest? Even those who are accountants and lecturers, when you get married, sometimes, for the sake of the children, you have to step back a bit. You have to stay at home. You have to take care of the home. And that isn't in itself bad. Because someone, if need be, will have to take care of the home and the children, if need be. So if two people can't go out and bring money, it means one has to stay behind for the other to go out and make money. But after making all the money, and you die and you don't plan for the person, that it means that this woman who has stayed at home for the last 10 years will now have to now regroup herself and come back to the market and come and look for a job and cater for your kids. In a nutshell, not planning is irresponsibility. Sorry. Not planning is not good enough. I had a client, he gave the properties out to the children before he even died. So before he died, you know, traditionally we have that. You call your children and sometimes your spouse, you have witnesses around. Kwame, when I die, this house is yours, this house is yours, this house is yours, this house is yours, this house is yours. Then they do some rituals to show that they appreciate it. So in a nutshell, everyone knows that this is how it's going to be. And so when the person dies, but even that, with witnesses, with family heads seated there, that they've all agreed that this is going to this one, this one is going to this. Die and see. Most times, there's happiness at home when there's no rivalry, when there's no competition, when there's no infightings at home. But greed has a very funny way of changing people. The green monster called greed. Currently, I'm on one particular case. And when a man died, I really thought this wasn't going to be a big deal. Because indeed, the man had even made a will. Now 2 of the children are in court. That the properties they've given them is not enough. Now the customary successor is in court, saying that the lands on which the properties were built belongs to the family, which we have documents to show that they are not family properties. So you are going to waste so much time in court, even someone who made a will. So if you don't make a will, if you don't plan, if you don't protect your family, the vulnerable in your society, women and children, at the end of the day, what happens? They'll be going to court back. Should I say fortunately? Fortunately, the lawyers will get all their money. We chop the money. So why don't you plan well? I was discussing with someone, and the person was like, all things being equal, right? If you look at the hierarchy of laws, if you look at Article 11 of our Constitution, that is where our laws are, the hierarchy. They'll tell you, in it, the Constitution is the highest. Act of Parliament, existing law, then common law, right? PNDC law 111. So that's the hierarchy of the laws. So the Constitution being the highest, the second highest, the Act of Parliament, the third highest, the existing law, and then you come to common law. So common law in there is where you find customary law. So that one is down there. So all things being equal, the PNDC law 111 is an act of parliament, meaning that it is far higher than the customary law. So if that is the case, why are people still ensuring that the common law, the customary law practices, is the one being effected and not the act of parliament? Not the PNDC law 111. Let me tell you the story again. Another client. Now I'm seeing so much so that all I say is just have a plan. So the father is dead, they are guns, and the children, male, female, right? So there are about 7 males and 9 females. The man tried. He went round. He did well. About 4 or 5 wives. Now, the male children are saying that the female children are not entitled to any of the properties because Gans, we are patrilineal. They should go to their husband's house and go and fight over the properties of their husbands. If this man had made a will, really, and given share, equal share, or how he wants to distribute the properties, can the sons do this? So the daughters are in court. And about maybe 2 years now, 2 in court. We are chopping the money, yeah. But at the end of the day, what's happening? Because a rich man had properties and refused to plan. So you leave, and behind you leave chaos. When I read the story of Martin Luther King, I was a little bit, when I have a dream, I know if you're a black man or black woman, when you hear that I have a dream, it's wonderful. Eh? This was a powerful man. And we even have Martin Luther King Day, US. He died without making a will. Up to today, the children are fighting over the properties. This was a man of peace. Now the children are all over the place, fighting as if the world is coming to an end. You need to plan. So what's the way forward? The way forward is quite simple. We are being told that there's a new interstate succession bill in the offing. It lapsed somewhere December 2020. It was laid before Parliament, but it lapsed somewhere December 2020. It was first laid in Parliament in October 2008. Yes. It looks at certain things that this old PNDC Law 111 wasn't looking at. So the spouse will get 50%, right? So all things being equal, because the woman or the man helped you in acquiring the properties, we are saying that that person is entitled to part of the property. So the person takes their share before we start sharing. Please, you understand? So let's say, for example, we have a house, 2 houses, and 3 cars, and some money is at the bank. The woman and the man teamed up to get these things done. So the woman will take her share, the 50% share, and then the 50% outstanding will be the one that will share. So it's helping. The Land Act 2020, which was passed 23rd December 2020, it has that same clause there. So all things being equal, there's a presumption that if there's a property and it was acquired during our marriage, then all things being equal, I have my share, 50. So it helps. The PNDC law, the new one, is going to help. And then, most importantly, you plan. When you are alive, but you can be incapacitated, you can be sick, anything can happen, plan. After your death, plan. So you can look at power of attorney, you can look at wills, you can look at trust, you can look at charitable giving. Some practicable steps. How do you plan? Define your estate and gift planning goals. What are your assets? Who are you going to give it to? Who is going to be your executor? Your 2 witnesses, who are they going to be? You think about organizing your documents. You ensure that you review your financial position. You review your insurance and retirement plan benefits. Sometimes you get married before, you get some properties before you got married. And sometimes, let's say, for example, social security. You even have some in there. You weren't married then. So your parents, your friend, your brother, they are still there. You've not changed it. You are married. You have kids. You've not changed it. It's still there. What happens? When you die, they are taking it. Seek expert advice. So when you go and see your lawyer will be asking you for some basic information. Your background information, your name and everything that goes with it. The list of the beneficiaries and their details. List of properties you own. The distribution formula. What are you going to give to who? The names of the executors can be 1 or 2, but usually we advise that it should be more than 1. Names of witnesses. Then the law firm you are interested in. My time is almost up, and so let me just conclude with this. Some common mistakes we make. We procrastinate. I have time. As we've seen, it's not true. We don't plan. You not planning, you are planning to fail. Your lack of planning is you're planning to fail. So please, let's take note of that. Misconceptions. Only the rich make wills. I don't have anything. You have a house, you have a land, you say you don't have anything. You have a car, you still say you don't have anything. Whatever you own, will it. You can draft your own will. Trust me, the rules with drafting wills is a little bit technical. We can't go into that's a whole discussion for another day. But the technicalities are there. If you don't draft it well, it will now be as if you didn't draft any will. So you draft a will, and because it's invalid, it goes contrary to law, it will be as if you didn't make a will. So PNDC law won't kick in. So make sure you do that. My family, they are loving family. They will not fight over my property. It's a fallacy. The services of a lawyer is expensive. Probably. But trust me, it's more expensive when you don't make a will and they start fighting. It's more expensive. So what's your plan? Do you have a will? How prepared are you? This saying is so archaic, but it so rings true to today. Benjamin Franklin. If you fail to plan, you are planning to fail. So your failure to plan, you've already failed in the beginning. Before you even began the fight, you've already failed. So thank you so much, and thank you for having me.
Good morning, everyone. So this is not a presentation, it's a summary of what my two colleagues have so ably presented to you today. So estate and gift planning, a strategy to protect you and your family while building wealth and helping others. So I have 5 messages for you. And if you don't remember anything, just remember this. And I'm sure you recall them from the presentations that my colleagues gave. First, we are all going to die someday. This has been said already. It's an uncomfortable truth, but it's the truth. Second, we do not know when we are going to die. Even for those who are terminally ill, the doctors give them a range. They say in a year, in 6 years, in 3 months, in 6 months. But the appointed time is not known. Third, because of this, estate and gift planning is incredibly important. Because of the first 2 points, that we are going to die and we don't know when. Fourth point, despite the importance of estate and gift planning, there's a lot of estate and gift planning illiteracy. And I think that's why this organization was formed. And the fifth and final point is that the University of Ghana School of Law and improving financial awareness and financial literary association of the University of Ghana Business School are planning to redeem this state of illiteracy. So these are the 5 points I want you to go away with today. In African traditional religion, we say that death is a fact of life, and it's a rite of passage from this earth into another world. In Islam, the Quran says that every soul will taste death, and it is not given to any soul to die save by Allah's permission and at the appointed time. Yet we don't know what that appointed time is. And of course, Hebrews 9:27, it is appointed unto men once to die. So there's an appointed time. It's just that we don't know what that appointed time is. But definitely, we will die. And because of that, because there's certainty of death, because there's possibility of illness and incapacitation, and because we don't know when these would happen, and because, like Demetia said, and as Anita stressed, the interstate succession laws may not be what we actually want to govern our affairs when we leave, we must make it a point to plan our estates. The important question then is, why is it that we don't plan our estates? And we are not aware of estate planning, and we don't comply when we are aware. Like Anita demonstrated, 0% of the married people here have wills. That's serious. And this is the normal trend. If you do surveys, you're likely to come up with about the same percentage. Not exactly zero, but it's not that high. There are a number of reasons that account for this. One, estate planning can be complex because of the range of laws that you need to understand in order to plan it. There are many laws. I'll list a few very soon. Estate planning involves time, energy, resources. If you want to do it properly, you have to pay a professional to do it for you, so you don't make mistakes that are costly. And like Demetia said, if you start planning your estate, there's a myth that you're about to die, and it restrains people from doing that. We don't want to confront death. We know it's going to happen, but none of us likes to confront it. And so people resist or postpone estate planning because of that belief. And finally, there's a subsisting feeling, there's a subsisting idea that our traditional system, where upon death, your relatives picked up your liabilities in terms of the health and welfare and education of your kids and your parents. There's a false sense that that still exists. It does not exist anymore. Things have changed. The days when my father took care of his brother's children who were older, and then his brother's children took care of us partly, but after us, it's all broken down. So if you're still living in that consciousness that the extended family system will act as a support mechanism for your kids and your parents and so forth when you leave, know that it's a myth. It's not going to happen. And so you have to plan it whilst you're alive. I noted earlier that there's a broad range of laws in this area, and my colleagues have mentioned them. The 1992 Constitution talks about estate and estate planning because it has rules on what, for example, a spouse is entitled to upon the death of another spouse. The Wills Act, Public Trustees Act, Power of Attorneys Act, the Income Tax Act, which Demetia mentioned. Now, these laws are all not very accurate because there is no one law that addresses and regulates private trust. Is that the case? Do we call it a private trust? And that is the main mechanism that can be used for this type of estate planning. So there's an inadequacy in the law. And that's why it's more important for you to seek professional advice when you are planning your estate. I'm ending with this point that the University of Ghana School of Law Summer School starts next month. We are going to address basic law for life, law and practice of taxation, corporate governance under the New Companies Act, the New Lands Act, and ADR techniques in business. But we have also just started discussing with business school to include now or a little later specific training on estate planning so that estate planning literacy may be improved. I'm sure that when this is completed, you'll see the adverts both in traditional media and on social media. So to recap, we are all going to go someday. 2, we do not know when we are going. Because of this, we need to take estate and gift planning seriously. 4, unfortunately, there's a lot of estate planning illiteracy. And 5, and finally, University of Ghana School of Law and University of Ghana Business School are determined to redeem the state of estate planning illiteracy in Ghana. When the time comes, you will have information about it. Thank you for your attention.
Thank you very much. At this juncture, we're going to take the Q&A. So my people on Zoom, please send in your questions. I'm aware you haven't sent them yet. Send in your questions so that our speakers can address the questions. So please send them. And then our media persons, if there's any question regarding the presentation that have gone ahead of us, the floor is open. You just have to raise your hand and ask the question, whether to Professor Raymond or Mr. William Damitia or Mrs. Anita Delight. Any question? Okay. You mentioned the name of your media house or where you're coming from.
Israel from Philippines.
Okay, thank you.
Please, I want to ask you mentioned that if we don't plan and we don't make a will, then you show us how the state will share our. But at last, you said if we don't do anything, the state will take all our property. If we don't plan, no spouse, nothing, and the state will take the property. What if maybe have a will and a property, I've built everything, I'm not in connection with any state or something. They don't know me. That's a one-man person. I have like a car, a house. I don't have anybody. How will the state know that I have all these things and the state will come in?
Thank you so much, Israel from TV3.
Most of it are not, you think no one knows you. You are known. And let me put it like this. So all things being equal, if you don't make a will, you don't have any beneficiary, you don't have anyone at all, and you die, someone might take it out. But let's say no one takes it out. And you have land, you have houses, you have farms, you have cars. By all means, the attention of the authorities will be drawn to it. And so when the attention of the authorities are drawn to it and it's realized that indeed there's no one, they take it out. But don't be too sure that you are not known. And that is what I want to stress. So don't be too sure that you are not known. You are known. What happens is that sometimes someone somewhere who is not related to you might take the property. So let's say you have cars and you die. No one comes to the person to tell the person to bring back the car. So all this because that person will take it. When it comes to houses, someone who is your tenant, someone will take it up. But all things being equal, if it's still for a while, the attention of the authorities will be brought to it and they will take it up. But all things being equal, no one is even supposed to interfere with that property. So when you die, unless someone goes for an LA or if you make a will, a probate,
no one is supposed to interfere with the property, so no one is supposed to touch it. So even later, we realized that indeed it was your property, and the person had taken it, and the person didn't go for probate, and the person didn't go for an LA, and the person isn't even related to you in any way. The state can still ensure that it's taken.
Okay, I don't know if our other speakers have something to say regarding this question. Okay. All right, so please hold on a bit. We have Elizabeth on our Zoom platform ready to ask a question. If Elizabeth is ready, we can hear you, Elizabeth.
Thank you very much. This is Elizabeth and I. Hello, Anita. I've got two questions. The first one goes to the first presenter. I would want to know if there is a particular amount when it comes to the estates that the government puts a cap on in terms of taxes. And then the second one goes to Anita. If there is a situation where a will could be overturned, if so, in what situations? Thank you.
Thank you very much. If I understand your question, you're asking if the value of the estate could be a basis for whether it will be taxable or not. Unfortunately, no. Okay, so if I may even veer off and talk about gifts a little bit, I said that a regime had changed. Now in 2015, the income tax law of Ghana was replaced with the current one, the Income Tax Act 2015 at 896. Now under the old law, there were exemptions from gifts. So for example, if a father gives an item to say the children, if say a spouse transfers to another spouse, if you give an item to an uncle, an aunt, a grandparent, a parent, there were exempt gifts for which the receipt of which did not bring you tax liability. When we crossed over to Act 896, from 592 to 896, those exemptions were eliminated. Even under the old law, the value of the gift had to be more than 50 Ghana cedis in order for it to be subjected to tax. We don't have that threshold amount anymore. So as the tax rules change, invariably, you see them becoming, closing the loopholes and trying to get everybody, as it were, to pay some element of tax. So my simple answer to that is no. There's no value that exempts you from paying tax as far as, say, the estate or gift is concerned. If it's received as an investment gift, you run it on the scale, or you choose as an individual to pay tax at the rate of 15% on the value of the gift. If it's a business gift, you add it to your business income, and if you're paying corporate income tax at the rate of 25%, you pay that. If it's employment, you add it to your employment income and run it on the scale. So basically, that's how the tax laws are currently framed. And I think as we make the advocacy and create the awareness, we may be able to lobby to get an exemption that comes about whenever people decide to engage in estate and gift planning. That may be one of the things I believe this chapter should pick up on, because, for example, life assurance contributions, for example, and I did a little bit. Life assurance contributions under the old law, if you were contributing or you were making plans towards life assurance, you could deduct either the premium or 10% of the sum assured, or 10% of your accessible income, whichever is less. When we crossed over to the new law 896, that benefit was taken away. So because we did not have a lot of advocacy going and we are not taking advantage, some of these laws have been changed and have brought, as it were, some tax liabilities on what we currently have. But it will take advocacy, it will take the awareness creation to be able to lobby Parliament and the government, as it were, to be able to revert back to the status quo where there's a favorable regime for people to do what? Engage in estate and gift planning. Because in advanced countries, that exists. When people decide to plan their estate, they get some tax benefits because the law is particularly geared towards that. Right. We don't have that harmony now, and that is something that we will be able to advocate for it to be changed. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much.
Can a will be overturned? Yes. A will can be overturned. when you draft a will contrary to law, it can be overturned. What do I mean by that? So all things being equal, you have to be 18 years and above. So if you are below the 18 years, obviously you can't draft a will. When you have to be of sound mind. Let's say, for example, someone is not that sound.
Right.
They will tell you that if the person even drafted it in a lucid moment meaning that all the things at the time the person was drafting it, the person was okay after. The person can draft. But if you're not sound mind, you cannot draft. So if you draft it can be overturned. Then we have undue influence. Your husband doesn't want to draft a will. By force, you should draft a will. You should draft a will. And you should draft a will to benefit you and yours only. If it's found out, and if it can be proven that there indeed was that, it can be overturned, or sometimes the other beneficiaries will be given to. Sometimes this one is not overturning per se, but let's say your spouse left you out,
Right.
or some of the children out, they can go to court for the court to give them a portion of the property. So although you wanted it to give to A, B, C, D, the court can step in and say, these people were your dependents, they needed your help. And so A, B, C, D, yes, we'll give you some, but E, D, F should also get some. So the court can step in. And most often than not, when you're a beneficiary, you're not supposed to be a witness.
Oh, okay.
So the wife is now going to give a car, and the two witnesses, the wife is now witnessing. The wife will forfeit that property. So that property then will move to intestacy. If there's no residue part in the will, to go to intestacy. So what we are trying to say is that you may draft a will, but ensure that it goes in line with our laws. And if it doesn't, you might as well not have made the will. You might as well not have drafted it in will, because it will be as if you didn't draft it. And so PNDC no one will kick in. And then the state will determine how your property should be shared.
Wow. Very, very, very enlightening. Yes, sir. So a quick one. We just posted the link to the websites on the Zoom platform. So our people on the Zoom platform, kindly click on it to register to be a part of the association. And if you want to ask a question, kindly raise your hand and you'll be given the opportunity to those on Zoom. Chairman for the day.
Thank you very much for the insightful presentation. So two quick questions. One is, partners will normally have joint property. Doesn't it count for anything? So even if you don't have a will, the fact that it's joint ownership, won't that affect the distribution? And then the other one is on the proposed courses you want to hold. Is it possible to broaden it to wealth management so that this is estate and gift planning is subsumed under that? I'm thinking about how it can sell. You know, our system is saying that we are not ready for things like this. We mentioned and everybody's thinking about it. But once it's wealth management, which captures it, maybe it will sell better. Yes.
Thank you. I think that's very possible. There's a team that does the course designs. So the discussions have started. And so what we do is make sure that it covers a broader range of topics. And then this becomes more of a subtopic under the broader working. That's very possible. It will just mean that it will take a little longer to develop, because you have to develop the handouts, develop the PowerPoint presentations. It needs to be useful to the people who take the course.
So, Professor Raymond Atuba would like to take his leave because he has other important things to do and time is going.
Joint property. You know what? I said that when you are willing, will what is yours. So if it is joint property, all things being equal, it's 50% that is yours. So if it's 50% that is yours, in your will, you have to generally draft that 50%, my share is 50%, then you give it out. In the new Lands Act that came out 23 December 2020, it says that there's a presumption that should a property be acquired during marriage, it's for the two of you equally. So the thinking then will be that then when you die and you don't even make a will, the woman is, or the man who is the surviving spouse will be entitled to half of it. But PNDC law 101 is silent on it. So now the woman will have to now go to court, claim her 50% share before we even start sharing the rest. But the new bill which is out, if we are able to push it for it to be enacted, proves that all things being equal, the woman or the surviving spouse, the man, will take his share, the 50% out. So far as it is a property acquired during marriage, the 50% will be out, even before we share the rest of the 50%. So that one will help. But with the PNDC law 111, now the person has to go to court, go and fight and get their 50% share. And most often they don't. They are not even aware that they can go for their share before the sharing begins. So the property is there, and then this one will take this, and then they'll divide it into 16, and it's per home. So we are hoping that with this, people will get to know, and then we'll start fighting for more.
Thank you. Please, I'm perfect from GTV. And my question is to Mrs. Anita. Please, I want to know, even though the Act of Parliament is higher than the common law, why does the customary law most of the time overpower the PNDC law? And I want to know, what does the state do about this? Thank you.
Your guess is as good as mine. You know, most often than not, the act is higher. So that is what should be done. Or when you go to our rural areas, most of these women or the survivors, they are not aware of PNDC law 111, that they have to even fight for their rights. Those who are even aware, they can't. You are looking at the family system. You are fighting against the whole community. The community is saying that property should be shared like this. You want the property to be shared in another way. So now you, an individual, against the whole community. Most people cannot fight. So, and there's this notion that when you fight for property, it means you kill the person so that you get the properties. There are so many insinuations. So people rather let go of their right. It's properties in it. I don't want it in it. We can't take it. Instead of fighting for their right. So the act is higher than customary law. But because we are Africans, let me put it like that, because the family system, our leadership, the chiefs, they have so much sway on us. When they say A, we are hesitant to fight back. We let them do what they will. But with this education, I'm hoping that I was looking at the vulnerable, so the women and children again will step up a bit, and hopefully with the new PNDs, with the new interstate law coming in force, it should be a little bit easier.
Thank you so much. In the absence of any other question, we would wrap up by thanking our speakers for making themselves available for our Q&A. Thank you very much. We would also want to remind us that this particular press conference is put together by the Financial Awareness Foundation, Center for Financial Literacy Education Africa, University of Ghana Business School, and the FA Association. We also have strategic partners and supporters like Access Pension, UGBS Alumni Association, Pali Global, Deloitte Ghana, Pro Petra Limited, CEFIS, School of Law, University of Ghana, Ghana Association of Bankers, EDC Investments, Asalink Media, HSI Media Consults, KPMG Ghana, and the Association of African University. We would like to take a closing remark from the Dean of University of Ghana Business School.